How's it going? Vladimir Adonis here. Welcome to another episode of the Business Convo Marketing Podcast. And today I want to talk about specifically what is at stake for your customers if they don't do business with you. Usually there's something at stake if your customers don't do business with you. And what I found is that if you speak to the thing that is at stake, if your customers don't do business with you, it's like a magnet. They will come to you much easier and with less resistance if you talk about the thing that is, at stake if they don't do business with you. Some time ago, I was part of an orientation committee. It's a university. So as an employee of that university, I was appointed to be part of some type of orientation committee. Now, for the orientation, what happens is that after the student enrolls, we need to get the students to what we call an orientation so that way they can know everything they need to know about the schools. They can know policies and procedures. They can know things that's going to help them be successful with going to school. As one of the individuals on the committee, one of the main objectives of that committee was to try to increase the number of students that show up for the orientation itself. We didn't have a high show up rate at that time, and we needed to try to increase the show up rate for orientation. Now, for me, that was one of my objectives, but at the same time, I had another objective as well. I knew that I wasn't speaking to the thing that was at stake, and there were some things that the department that I was in charge of was struggling with as well. The department that I was in charge of, essentially, I was in charge of the financial aid department. And one of the things that we had to work on is we had to work on making sure that we use up all of our allocation, all of our funding allocation. Well, the year prior, the year leading up to that, we hadn't used up all of our funding allocation. We got very close to not using all of our funding allocation. And in some instances, if you don't use up all of your funding allocation, the university system basically it allows other locations to use the allocation. So the stakes were high. So if the students that were part of my location, if they didn't use that allocation, what would happen is that they would lose out on the allocation, and that allocation would go to a different location altogether. Well, those stakes were pretty high for our specific students. But here's the issue. The issue was that we were giving a standard presentation. So it's a presentation. It was a templated presentation that came from the corporate office, and the corporate office encouraged that we all of the different locations use the same presentation. Kind of like when you go to a bank, the banks have a corporate office, and they want all departments and all divisions to kind of to be speaking the same language, and they want them to be consistent across the board. So although there may have been some value in being consistent, but for us, there were some different things that were at stake at the time. The presentation itself didn't necessarily speak to the issue that was happening at that location. It didn't speak to the issue of that specific audience. So what I decided to do is I decided to kind of just customize the presentation to talk about the thing that was at stake. So what I did, instead of doing the standard presentation that I received from the corporate office, I modified the presentation to talk about the fact that we came very close to not using our allocation, and not using our allocation means a couple of things. It means that the following year we may not receive as much money from an allocation standpoint, and it also means that our students end up borrowing more money. So as a student, if you don't come to us, or if you do not respond to us when we call you, if you do not respond to your emails, if you don't respond to your phone calls, what's going to happen is that you're going to miss an opportunity to receive more money, specifically to receive more free money. Because for whatever reason, we were doing our due diligence as a department. We're reaching out to these specific students, but the response rate was just not. It wasn't that high. So one of the things, as a leader of the department, one of the things that I had to do is I had to find a way to increase the response rate. I had to find a way to instill and to motivate these specific students to come to us whenever someone from my team or myself reached out to him. So the way that I encouraged that, the way that I did that is that at every touch point, because I had different touch points with students, and one of those touch points was at the orientation. So one of the things that I did at the orientation is I modified the presentation. The presentation no longer spoke about the general thing that it spoke about. I completely modified the presentation. The presentation spoke about students, and it spoke about some of the things, some of the funding opportunities that students in the past had missed. It spoke about some of the free opportunity that students had missed. I highlighted the scenario whereby some students pay more, although they may have the same qualification. So if I'm talking to a group of audience and I'm saying, you know what, student A, student B, they have the exact same qualification, but student A received $4,000 more money. I started to kind of just receive these people's attention, and the way that I got their attention was that, hey, you know what, I can save myself more money. I don't have to take out as much loans. So because I started to kind of just speak to the thing that was at stake, to the thing that really, really interested him, what happened as a result, I remember this very clearly after one of our orientations. I think at the time, after one of these orientations, I knew that there were a handful of students that hadn't come to the financial aid office to complete their financial aid process. And after that orientation process, after I gave that presentation for the very first time, I kid you not, I went back to my office. And then, 30 minutes later or 45 minutes later, whenever that was, when the orientation ended, I had a line at my door. Every single student that was part of that orientation came to my office as a result of hearing that presentation. You know why? Because the stakes were high, because I spoke to the specific thing that was at stake. I was no longer doing the presentation that wasn't driving these people to me. I customized the presentation. So what does that mean for you? If you're listening to this, you need to speak to your audience. You need to speak to the thing that is at stake. There's something that is at stake as it relates to them not doing business with you. Speak about that thing. Look at your audience, analyze your audience, and speak to them about, hey, this is what is at stake. If you don't do business with me, you can miss out on money. You can miss out on a better life. Whatever it is that they're missing out on as it relates to not doing business with you, speak about that thing. And if you speak about that thing, when you speak about that thing, you will definitely see better results. Another thing you can do is you can drive them to your website to give them something for free. You can give them something for free, something that's going to help them to be able to get closer to solving their problem. And I've made it very easy for you to help them do that. You can help them do that by going to my website and downloading a free how-to video, a free lead magnet how-to video that's going to walk you through the process step by step on how to create a lead magnet. A lead magnet is something that you can give to the people that come to your website for free. You give that to them for free as a way of goodwill, as a way of saying, hey, thank you for stopping by, as a way of kind of just leading with a given hand, and thereby make it just that much more easier for you to make a sale. Because what happens is that a lot of times when people go to your website for the very first time, they may not be ready to buy. If they're not ready to buy, guess what those individuals are going to do? They're going to bounce. Right? They want to bounce unless you compel them to take action. And the way that you can compel them to take action is by giving them something for free. I've made it very easy for you. All you have to do is go to my website at vladimirdonis.com and download the free lead magnet how-to video. And that's going to help you to kind of just engage and compel your customers, your prospects, to go ahead and take action. Hey, that's my time. Thanks for listening. Till next time.